Welcome into the Bird and the Bear podcast, episode 9, week 8 of the college football season. After a pretty robust week 7, we're getting into week 8. It's kind of a bit lackluster, but after week 7, a couple talking points that we have for today. Starting off with Florida LSU, we'll move into Penn State in the Big 12 and cap it off talking about Oregon. And then we're going to move on to our games of the week. Not as loaded of a slate as in week 7, but still some very important games in the overall structure, the landscape of college football. Michael Knauff, Cameron Carriglio here, and Cameron, last week was one heck of a week for college football.
Yeah, it was. Florida lived up to the billing. Florida versus LSU, I should say, lived up to the billing. LSU's really good.
To say the least.
I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like their offense before.
They just get such good spacing because they get mismatched a lot. They'll get your receivers lined up on safeties and linebackers, and that's what kind of killed Florida. When you have Ventrell Miller splitting out wide to cover, a slot receiver, you're going to run into problems.
Yeah, I mean, if they had been able to run an actual game's worth of plays, because we had the ball forever, they would have scored 60.
They had 48 plays and had over 500 yards of offense. They averaged 10.6 yards a play.
And I know you wanted to talk about us losing Grenard and Zuniga.
Which is big because they went out.
But did it matter, really, at the end of the day?
In terms of getting any bit of a pass rush, and also in the run game, it definitely, I feel, that's kind of hurt a lot because you had no one at the edge. And they both went down early. Grenard in the first series of the game. Zuniga went down early second quarter, I think it was. And you lost any type of ability to rush with 4. And Zach Carter did a really poor job filling in for Grenard, and Jeremiah Moon, whereas he's had some nice moments, he got out of his rush lanes a lot, and a lot of the scrambles that Burrow had were because Moon got out of his rush lanes.
I mean, that's a tough fire to be thrown into.
Oh, yeah, no, that's incredibly difficult.
I don't, begrudge them for coming in and struggling. That's not a good position ever to just be like, okay, I know you weren't really expecting to get many snaps, but you're in.
You're a starter, probably.
Well, and they still didn't get many snaps because LSU kept scoring quickly.
Very, very quickly.
Florida's offense, though, I was pretty impressed with. The biggest irksome thing for me to watch was the just momentum-killing third-quarter Emory drive.
Well, I wouldn't even say necessarily that drive. I would point to the drive before when Richard Gulag had that holding penalty after what would have been a first down completion.
How the hell is his last name pronounced?
Goulage.
Gourage?
Richard Goulage.
It's not an L.
Gourage? It's a very, very obscure last name.
I've pronounced it probably 14 different ways, and none of them were that.
Well, he wasn't a starter to begin with. So
he should be.
Well, he is now. He is now. Yeah, but he wasn't to begin with. But those two drives kind of doomed Florida in the second half, and
then the red zone pick,
which
probably wouldn't have ended up mattering too terribly much, but it would have been nice to have those points at least.
I mean, it would have been a tie game at that point, and it would lasted like a minute and a half, but it puts some pressure back on LSU. I mean, obviously, 2 plays later they go and score, the touchdown that puts them up by 14. But LSU, I think they're ranked second now for a very legitimate reason.
They could be number 1.
I mean, no team has
it wouldn't shock me if the CFP does put them number 1.
The AP doesn't really matter.
The CFP first one is next week, right? Week 9?
That's a good question. I think so.
It seems like it takes longer every year.
Yeah, they kind of push it back on every year. They're not really consistent with when it comes out. So the first one will be actually November 5th.
Okay, so 2 weeks down.
Yeah, so after the Florida-Georgia game, after that weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, they tend to release them later. It makes sense, though. It's a more accurate poll. But Florida's in good shape, so I mean, this could very easily be a rematch in Atlanta.
Easily. Yeah, I think we'd be better on a neutral field.
I agree. And just because the environment is, it's not as hostile.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Trask, though, overall.
Yeah, he had those 2 back shoulder throws he had to Jefferson to begin the third quarter were NFL caliber throws.
Yeah.
We're going to move out of the SEC. We're going to move to Penn State, who got a really big win in Iowa City last week against Iowa. Defensively, they are stellar. But at the same time, though, their offense is kind of started to have put some momentum together, and they're undefeated and they're ranked 7th in the nation.
Yeah, I think they're quite dangerous. They're better offensively and more explosive than they usually seem to be. I mean, the McSorley offenses 2 years ago were quite good with him and Barkley. They were very, very good. Last year with McSorley without Barkley, it was kind of a clunky offense, it felt like. McSorley didn't top 300 once. And, I mean, they were throwing the ball a little bit. It's just he didn't look very good the majority of the time. I think Sean Clifford's been a huge step up, and they're deep. All their receiving core is deep. It's young. They have a bunch of young running backs, and they're a really solid team. This week's obviously basically a bye. Wait, who they play?
They play Michigan this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the big one for the week. So
I'm trying to find it. Where the hell is it? What time does it start?
It's the 7:30 ABC game.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
I scrolled right past it like 3 times.
It's the biggest ranked matchup of the week probably.
Maybe not the most entertaining.
No, I think Penn State could very easily destroy Michigan.
I think they're going to pull Wisconsin on Michigan. It's going to be like 35-14.
And they're playing in Penn State. It's the whiteout. I mean, it's so hard. Only Ohio State can go into that environment and like have a semblance of a chance.
Iowa played them tough, but Iowa's a tough place to play.
Oh yeah, everyone goes.
And that game
struggles.
was kind of out of reach for most of it, and Iowa got that late touchdown that was kind of garbage time.
Made it seem more respectable than what it was.
Yeah.
And Penn State very easily could knock off. They have to go to Ohio State this year, but they're going to make that a game.
Oh, I think that's a hell of a game.
Yeah, the Big Ten has some mammoth matchups coming up down this late stretch of the season. Going to go down to the Big 12. Oklahoma picking up the big win in the Red River rivalry. It was only a 7-point game, but if you watched it, like it felt like Oklahoma was blowing the heck out the entire time.
I feel like Oklahoma toyed with them for 3 quarters, and then we're just like, oh shit, they're kind of back in it. I feel like that was Oklahoma's worst game. I don't see anybody else getting that close again. As far as who they're going to play in the title game, who the hell knows?
That's a huge question because it could be a numerous number of teams.
I'm thinking either Iowa State, Oklahoma State, or Baylor.
Or
Texas again. But I think Texas is going to lose.
I see another loss in Texas as well, whether it be to Baylor or Iowa State. I mean, you very easily could be looking at a 3 or 4 loss Texas team. I think by the end of the season,
who could end up making the Big 12 title game? It's going to be a weird play for number 2 there.
They're also going to cannibalize themselves.
Iowa State already has a loss. Baylor is going to.
They're due. They should have lost last week.
Yeah. They should have lost to Iowa State.
Yeah,
arguably.
True.
That time at least the refs weren't responsible for them winning the game.
That's fair. But that second spot in the Big 12 is it's going to come down between those 3 or 4 teams.
Yeah.
And someone's going to get to lose to Oklahoma probably in the Big 12 title game. That's what basically it's going to come down to. Going to go out west now, and Oregon has, since their opening week loss to Auburn, has been dominant. Justin Herbert finally looks like the Justin Herbert that we thought he was going to be coming into the season. And that defense for Oregon is disgusting.
Yeah,
right
they don't allow very many points. They haven't allowed more than a touchdown since week 1, I think.
How many they allowed to Stanford? 7?
Looking right now.
That was their closest.
They're down to allowing 8.7 points a game. Since that loss, they've allowed 6-3, 6, 7, and 3.
So yeah, they're pretty damn good on defense. I mean, I'd say they have a tough matchup this weekend offensively with Washington, but Washington has really proven that they can play consistent offense.
No, I mean, they hung up 51 last week, but 13 against Stanford the week before.
Yeah, so they're about as hot and cold as you can get. But the big question is, let's say Oregon wins out. That would include wins over Utah going out the rest of the season. Could Oregon, with 1 loss, make a playoff if the cards fell right?
The cards would have to fall very right. I mean, I think we're looking at, right now, 6 or 7 teams that deserve to be in. And they're not one of those, to me. And you're looking at, they've already lost 1 game, and you're looking at teams that will probably have at most 1 loss and still be in better positioning than Oregon.
Agreed. I mean, yeah, because if LSU or Bama loses a game, Georgia with 1 loss is still deemed better than Oregon. Like you said, Ohio State, let's say they fall to either Wisconsin or Penn State.
And then let's say Wisconsin or Penn State loses, all 3 of them will have 1 loss. I would take any of them over Oregon.
Yeah, there would have to be a lot of 2-loss teams for Oregon.
Oregon's marquee wins would be Washington and Utah. I mean, to me, those are good wins, but they're not.
They're not playoff level.
No,
wins.
They're not playoff level wins.
They can, and the only way they can is they have to just beat the pulp out of everyone else they play, and then hope for a prayer. Which they very easily could. I wouldn't want to play them in whatever New Year's Six Bowl they get. That's for sure, though.
No, we might too. Well, I guess we wouldn't really.
In Florida, I mean, in theory, Florida could, but more than likely, Oregon will be in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
which would then be the Big 12?
No, that's Big 10.
Big 10. You're right. That could be like a Wisconsin, Oregon, or a Penn State, Oregon. That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Wisconsin, Oregon would be ugly.
It'd be like 10-7, maybe.
I mean, Oregon already played one of the worst bowl games of all time last year.
That's fair. The Holiday Bowl or the Red Box?
Or whatever the hell it's called. I think it was the Red Box, yeah.
7-6, is that?
7-6.
That's awful.
They won. But
hey, a win's a win, yeah, but I know what game you're talking about. And last thing from last week, we had 2 other teams fall from the unbeaten ranks. Memphis loses to Temple, and Wake Forest falls in a shootout to a very resurgent Louisville team.
Yeah, when Herb Street in their first game against Notre Dame went down their schedule and was like, yeah, I see 6 wins. I thought he was talking out his ass. Their schedule did not look like they had 6 wins in them. Well, now
they're at 4-2.
They're at 4-2. They've already beaten BC and Wake, who I thought were 2 losses. And offensively, they're just doesn't matter who the hell's playing quarterback for them. They've used 3. The Cunningham brothers and Juwan Pass, who's out for the year now. But they're better off with the Cunningham brothers. Oh, and Evan Conley. So they've used 4 quarterbacks in 6 games, and they're 4-2.
And Scott Satterfield's done a hell of a job.
He's running a little bit of a more up-tempo, pass-heavy offense than they ever ran at Appalachian State. And it's just a machine. Defensively, they've sucked.
Oh, yeah, they're terrible on defense.
But the offense caught up to the defense this year because their defense was atrocious last year.
And it's got them in prime position to win 6, maybe 7 games. I mean, Jamie
Newman got hurt last week, but it was like a 21-point game when he went out. Sam Hartman actually played really well.
Wake only lost by what?
3, yeah. 62-59.
I'm glad I had Surratt starting in that game.
He's one of the best receivers in the country.
He really is.
But fantastic. As far as Memphis goes, honestly, for both of these teams, it was a matter of time.
Yeah. I mean, the AAC in terms of depth this year is much better than it has been in previous. I mean, Temple's legit. They're really good.
I don't know how they got blown out by Buffalo. They really did get blown out.
Yeah, they got crushed.
It was like a 38-14 game going into the 4th quarter. They're good. They're really quite good. I mean, for that level of competition.
Yeah.
They're just kind of a chaos agent in that conference.
Yeah. I mean, they got a chance to knock off another undefeated team this week.
I think they might.
Yeah, it very easily could. So with that, we're going to kind of move into this week's games. Not a whole lot in terms of depth this week in terms of quality games, but a lot of games.
I think there's a depth of quality games. There aren't just any big flashing lights.
Like there were last week.
I mean, we're picking like 30.
There's
over there.
Like that's fair. When I was going through this and putting the list together, I was like, all right, there's kind of a lot of underwhelming games. I was like going through like, there's actually some pretty quality matchups across the board that are
a lot of low lines.
Yeah. So we'll start with the Gators. Go into Columbia to play South Carolina. Obviously, South Carolina beat Georgia last week, 2017 in overtime. Lost Ryan Holinsky in that game, but still held on. I think it's more a testament of how overrated Georgia was, honestly, than what South Carolina did to them.
I mean, yeah, you look at Georgia, they lost to what I didn't think was a great Texas team in the bowl game last year. I mean, not that necessarily means much, but I'm hesitant to really say this is sustainable for South Carolina just because they had no business winning that game. They got outgained like 468 to 270 or something ridiculous. Holinsky went down and they did nothing after that offensively.
Oh,
they had like 2 first downs.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
And like half a game. It was crazy. Georgia moved the ball at will and just couldn't close 3 picks, right?
Yeah, from
all by Mukulamu. 1 pick 6.
They turned the ball over 4 total times.
1 in overtime.
They had that botched snap that in the red zone.
Yeah, in the botched snap. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about this game, but Chris Felica posted a stat that while in like the last 10 years, teams that go and beat a top 10 team on the road, then come home and play another top 10 team are 11-4 against the spread, but they've only won once.
Well, the spread's 5. What, 4
Yeah,
by
I know.
5.
There's not a whole lot of room.
Yeah, there's a very
Interesting stat, though.
That is interesting, but there's a very thin margin for error then for Florida, who I think will come out pissed off. I think Florida's going to come out playing angry.
We talked about this right before we went on. How this doesn't seem like a Florida team that is going to lose those types of games.
The mindset's night and day compared to last year or during the McElwain years. I mean, this team really they want to be a national contender. That's
and I think they smell blood in the water as far as that being a possibility.
With Georgia having lost, they know they have to take care of business against South Carolina to even keep that chance alive. And and one thing that could help Florida, 100% chance of rain in Columbia on Saturday.
Does that really help us?
I think it does.
We throw the ball all the time. How does that help us?
Because I don't think that, because it's kind of a misnomer that rain hinders offense, but really it hurts the defense way more. Because if there's an offense, you're dictating where motion is going. So and being reactionary is the problem. And I think South Carolina's going to have a hard time keeping up with us regardless offensively. And I think that if it does rain, it could very easily be that Mullen kind of offensive style in 2008 when we went to Florida State and it was pouring rain and we still threw the ball over them.
True, we did. Especially in the first half, we did whatever the hell we wanted. Have you watched, this is totally off topic, have you ever watched the condensed game of that on YouTube?
I haven't, no.
It is a blast. It is so much fun. There's like a half hour to 40-minute condensed game on there has like 3 million views. Really solid video.
I mean, it's such an iconic game for Florida and Tebow. I mean, obviously, the paint jersey game, super iconic.
Yeah.
We're going to go to one of 3 ranked matchups this week. Number 12, Oregon goes to number 25, Washington. We kind of touched on it a bit before. Oregon, a 3-point favorite. Washington, been kind of up and down this season, went and blew out Arizona last week, but does have some kind of perplexing losses to both Cal and Stanford. This is kind of weird. I mean, Washington defensively is still respectable, but they're at home. Is there a way that you see them possibly knocking off Oregon?
Yeah, it's because the Pac-12's dumb. Really no other reason. On paper, I think Oregon has them by double digits. But who knows? I mean, I like Oregon. I'm going to take Oregon. But I definitely think there's a route. Because Washington's a good team. They're well coached. They're talented. If their offense can get it going, I think they can play with anybody. But I think Oregon's defense is going to give Jacob Eason a lot of problems.
And Eason has not played well against good defenses this year.
No, he hasn't played at all well against good. He didn't play that great against Arizona.
That defense for Washington made a lot of plays in that game.
Yeah. I actually didn't watch much of it at all.
I saw a couple highlights, and there are a lot of defensive highlights.
The LSU game took the wind out of my sails last week.
Yeah, I know.
I've been watching my second favorite team, Hawaii, get their breaks beaten off them by Boise State.
Boise just put an offensive clinic.
Yeah, with Hawaii. 3 quarterbacks.
Boise's scary.
Boise's very scary.
I'm going to take Oregon as well in this one. To Temple and SMU, we also dabbled in this game a bit previously. Temple 5-1 knocked off Memphis last week, going to number 19 SMU. Obviously, they're undefeated. SMU is a 7.5-point favorite. And this is going to be a game.
Yeah, it is. I see it being kind of a shootout. I think that SMU kind of got that, wow, we really should have lost game out of their way against Tulsa a little bit. And I think they come out ready. I think they know that Temple's capable of beating them. I mean, Temple's a good team. But SMU at home, chance to get to 7-0 and guarantee themselves a winning record, probably. I mean, they could go 7-7, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I doubt that's going to happen. But
I think that'll help. I think Temple's secondary is a little bit suspect at times. I like SMU here. Close, though.
I'm torn on this. I like Temple a lot, and I think what they do defensively is pretty stifling. I'm going to take Temple, I think, here in an upset. I think they do it again. I think that they, after what they did in Memphis last week and just what we've seen out of them from this point forward, they're a pretty dangerous team. Mm. Then another Pac-12 matchup, also ranked a ranked matchup. Number 17, Arizona State goes to number 13, Utah. Both teams 5-1 on the year. Utah's a pretty big favorite, 13.5-point spread. But this could be way more interesting than that spread indicates.
Yeah, no, that spread's absolutely ridiculous. Under is easy. I mean, I don't see Arizona State even letting them have the ball enough to get down by that much.
They just eat clock. They just eat clock up.
I think Arizona State turned a little bit of a corner offensively last week, but that was against Washington State, who's been a sieve all year. I'm going to take Utah here, but I'm very intrigued by this game.
It'll be fun to see Eno Benjamin and Zach Moss kind of go at it. That's a very fun running back matchup.
Honestly, I'm kind of excited to see Huntley and Jaden Daniels go at it. Daniels had a career day last week.
Yeah, he played very well.
363 and 3 touchdowns. I'm excited to see Brandon Ayuk, what he can do against Utah's secondary, who has struggled at times. I think it's going to be like 27-24.
It'll be fun. I think this would be a very entertaining game. I'm going to take Utah as well. I think, but Arizona State will cover. I kind of agree with your score prediction. I'm going to say like 24-20, something in that ballpark. To the nightcap, the ABC game of the week. Number 16, Michigan goes to number 7, Penn State. It's a whiteout in Penn State. The Nittany Lions are a 9-point favorite. And honestly, I'm gonna take Penn State. I would put money down on Penn State to cover.
Yeah, to cover?
Yeah,
I think 28-13, something.
I just don't think Michigan.
Maybe even worse.
Michigan is so inept offensively. I mean, obviously, yeah, they put up 40 plus on Illinois, but that's Illinois.
Yeah, if you don't, Illinois actually almost came back.
They were down by what, 4?
It was 28-25 at one point.
Yeah, it was
before Michigan forced a couple turnovers and shut the door.
Yeah, and Penn State, they've just been so dominant this season. I mean, outside of that game against Pitt, which that's a rivalry game. The weather was wacky.
Pitt just does that to everybody.
Pitt's annoying. Pitt's a super annoying team, but other than that, Penn State has really handled everybody they've played. And they can contend for the East Division, I think, now legitimately.
Yeah, I think so too. I think them and Wisconsin are easily the biggest threats to Ohio State, and I think one of them beats them.
Because if you're Ohio State, it's tough to play them both and come out with 2 wins. Albeit, Ohio State has them both at home, which helps a lot.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they've lost the shoe before. It's not uncommon.
No, yeah.
It's uncommon, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah, it's not like an impossible
The shoe's
place.
not that loud.
No, I mean, it's not an impossible place to go win it, but it's not the easiest task in the world.
No.
The last game for our top tier matchups, a Big 12 game, number 18 Baylor, still undefeated on the year, goes to Oklahoma State, who's 4-2. But the Pokes are a 4-point favorite. Baylor needed all it could muster to knock off Texas Tech last week.
And the refs.
Do they do it again this week? Or
Oklahoma State here.
You think Oklahoma State will take them?
Baylor should go 2 in their last 2 games. So, I mean, I think Baylor's a good team. I think if they were home, I would pick them. But Oklahoma State, this is the kind of game they just seem to win every year. And I think they win here. I
agree. I think Hubbard's going to have a big game. And Oklahoma State offensively kind of has an identity now. Like, I think they finally catch up to the close losses catch up to Baylor as well. I'll take the Pokes as well. So before we get to the rest of the slate, I didn't put this on our outline. I forgot to. But your hot takes.
I should have had one last week. That's an asterisk.
Yeah, you had Texas Tech beating Baylor and very easily should have been right. So you're like 1-5 on the year, I think, now?
Yeah, I am.
So
I'm going to roll with Texas Tech again. They beat Iowa State.
They're playing in Lubbock this week.
Yeah.
And Iowa State...
It's a touchdown line. It wouldn't be crazy, but I can see it happening.
Okay. All right. Well, might as well now get to that slate of games for the rest of the week. We'll start with Friday's matchup between Pitt and Syracuse. Pitt's a 3.5-point favorite. Big game for Pitt, though, in the Coastal understanding.
Yeah, it's a big game for Syracuse, too, to get to a bowl. They likely need to beat Pitt to be in contention for a bowl at the end of the year. I don't know. Both these teams are ugly.
They're such bad football.
I have no idea who to pick here. I guess I'm going to take Syracuse because they're at home.
I mean, the Carrier Dome isn't the easiest place to play in the world. It can get pretty loud.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams kind of suck.
Pitt's just gritty. Like we said that. And like
the Narduzzi effect.
they'll find ways to win games.
There's two of my favorite coaches going against each other, so I'm kind of excited to watch it. Kind of something
in a
to do
weird, kind of sadistic way.
Yeah, but I like Syracuse tight. I think.
I'm gonna take Pitt. I like what they're doing.
There are a few games this week where I have no idea who the hell I'm picking.
Yeah, they're total crapshoot. To number 3, Clemson, Louisville. Clemson's a 24-point favorite, but the way Louisville's been playing offense, you think they can generate some points to cover?
Oh, I like Louisville to cover, actually, yeah. I think it'll be like 42-24, something like that.
I can see that. My only thing is like Clemson's defense. I mean, I know we've talked about their offensive struggles, but their defense is still very, very good. And I don't know. I just feel that they're going to be able to stuff Louisville enough. I think Clemson might barely cover. Like, it could be.
Yeah, I think that line's actually right about correct.
That's a very tough. Like, if you're betting like this, I would stay away from this game. Yeah. But obviously, Clemson all the way is going to just beat them by multiple touchdowns. But Louisville very much so improved, and I think down the road, maybe not the rest of this season, but next year, they could definitely take a step.
Oh, yeah.
So to your hot take, Iowa State goes to Texas Tech. Iowa State's a 7-point favorite, but Iowa State has struggled a little bit this year, losing to Baylor. They've lost to Iowa, but they did take care of business last week against West Virginia, dismantling the Mountaineers. Texas Tech should have had a win last week against Baylor. You like Texas Tech. Why do you take them here?
I think Jet Duffy's actually coming into his own. I think they figured out how to run an offense that they're comfortable with. I like their offensive talent. I think their defense has improved over last year, or really any year in the Kingsbury era you pick it. I think they're better. And I mean, I know that they've translated to, they've allowed a lot of points, but it's not like they're just getting run over. Iowa State, I don't know. Iowa State, I feel like, struggles to win close games at times.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that this year in both of their 2 losses. They had no business losing to Iowa.
They should have beat Iowa, yeah.
And then Baylor, they almost got back and went up and then allowed that drive to the field goal. I think Texas Tech's going to play with a bit of the chip on their shoulder after last week.
Yeah, it's kind of some vengeance on their mind. And I agree that Iowa State, they can't find out. This year, the tough games are legitimately tough. They haven't really been able to find a way to get through them.
They beat the crap out of TCU. So that looks good, too.
That's a good win. Yeah, that's a solid win. I'm going to take Iowa State straight up in this game. I'm a huge Brock Purdy fan.
Me too.
And I think him now coming into his own as a dual threat kind of guy, which is crazy to think about.
He's a true soft, isn't he?
That is a good question.
I think he is. I think he was a true freshman last year when they put him in over Zeb Noland.
He's only 19 still.
Then probably.
So yeah, he's a true soft. Yep. He was the freshman of the year last year, and he's a true sophomore.
Deserved it too. He was really good.
He was fantastic.
They're airing out a little bit more this year too, which is funny because they don't have Hakeem Butler anymore.
Yeah,
but they're actually throwing far more often.
Yeah, I mean, he got 1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, almost 500 yards on the ground. He has 11 rushing touchdowns.
Already?
Yeah, so he got 22 total touchdowns. Which, put that in perspective, Jalen Hurts has 25.
Yeah, and Hurts... This is totally off topic. I think Hurts has actually shown some chinks in the armor the last few weeks.
Yeah, I would agree. I can't really explain what they are, but just about watching him, when you get speed on the edges and guys that can contain him in the pocket and he can't run around a whole lot, he kind of gets a little happy feet.
He runs too much.
And he'll force stuff on the line.
I know he's been very successful running the ball. He's averaging over 100 yards a game. But I think he needs to sit in a little bit more and read his receivers and read the routes a little bit. I think they've been getting chunk plays in the passing game that they haven't really gotten too terribly often this year so far. And they've had some, but I think there's more there. And partially, I mean, I don't know, it's hard to argue with it. I just think they'd be better off if he played a little more traditionally.
I agree. I think they're design running him way too much.
I think he runs risk getting injured.
I do too.
CFB took some hits against Texas.
He really did. I mean, there were some times where he just ran a quarterback dive and he got swallowed up.
That fumble in the red zone, he got lit up.
Yeah,
and that was an elbow shot. That could have been really bad on his throwing arm.
Well, you saw what he did afterwards. He ripped the sleeves off of his shirt afterwards. But no one in the Big 12 is going to beat Oklahoma, so it's kind of a moot point, until they get to the CFP. Staying in the Big 12, TCU goes to Kansas State. A pair of 3-2 teams going at it. TCU's a 3.5-point favorite, but really, this game's a pick 'em essentially.
I'm going to take K-State because they're at home.
It's kind of my logic too.
Neither offense is very good. Both defenses are decent. These are just two decent teams.
They're very okay.
Yeah,
very okay. They'll both finish like 6-6, 7-5,
or maybe even 5-7. But yeah, K-State at home.
I'll take it too. To the SEC, LSU obviously undefeated, number 2 in the country, goes to Starkville to play Mississippi State, who is reeling after giving Tennessee their first SEC win of the season. However, I thought this line was kind of low. 17.5 points. LSU's a favorite.
LSU by 40.
I'm gonna throw this at you here. Does LSU have any bit of a hangover, and are they gonna sleep on Mississippi State with Auburn after?
They're so fucking good. They could sleepwalk and probably win 38-10.
Mississippi State's not gonna score more than 10 points on that defense. Mississippi State offensively is trash.
I'm going 45-7.
Do you want to talk about Joe Moorhead here? I saw earlier today that he is the leading candidate for the new Rutgers head coaching job.
So I'm guessing Rutgers is anticipating that Miss State's going to fire him?
Which I don't really see, but Mississippi State fans they're missing Dan Mullen a lot now.
Honestly, that Rutgers job's hilarious. I think they should just take some like random coach from like Mount Union. Just be like, hey,
it'd be good.
Here you go.
I mean, Mount Union, whoever was coaching at Mount Union would know how to win.
Or that fucking high school coach from Arkansas that never punts. They lose like 145-0 the first few years, but eventually could get there.
Rutgers, the day that what do you think a successful season at Rutgers would be like now?
6 wins and 2 conference wins, 3 conference wins. You'd have to get 3.
Oh, I was gonna say like 4 or 5 like wins total.
Oh, a bowl every 10 years.
Every 10 years.
Yeah. Or just leave the conference altogether, but that's impossible.
At this point, yeah, like there's too much money invested into it. Gonna go to the Sun Belt, where UL Monroe, 3-3 in the year, goes to undefeated and ranked Appalachian State. The Appies are a 15-point favorite, but last year, once Appalachian State was ranked, immediately.
Yeah, but they went to Georgia Southern, who went 10-2. Big difference.
Very big difference as I'm hosting a 3-3 squad. Appy State's good. Yeah. Like, other than last week's game against
Louisiana.
University of Louisiana, not the Louisiana Lafayette. What were you talking about before? They rebranded their entire school. Not just their mascot. They're still the Raging Cajuns. But they just dropped Lafayette altogether.
Yeah, that's weird. Not UL Monroe should change it to like University of Louisiana, not Lafayette.
That would be really funny, actually.
UL Monroe is not a bad team. They went 6-6 last year, got bowl snubbed. Same thing will probably happen again this year. And I don't think they can really hang. I think App State wins by 15.
App State's
UL Monroe's defense doesn't suck. I think they hang in a little, but
yeah, I mean App State's dominated virtually everyone they played this season outside of UNC and Louisiana last year, but obviously and they still dropped 34 on UNC.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take App State to cover and go to 6-0. The ACC, a big game in the Coastal. 3-3 UNC goes to somehow a 4-2 Virginia Tech team. UNC's a 3.5-point favorite in Blacksburg. Who you got?
I mean, Virginia Tech's wins are over a Miami team that quite literally spotted them 4 touchdowns. Furman, was it the Citadel?
I think they beat the Citadel.
And Old Dominion. So I'm gonna take UNC.
So they beat Furman, Rhode Island, Miami, and
Old Dominion.
Old Dominion. I forgot they
None
had
of
that.
those wins are pretty.
No.
I like UNC big.
Yeah, I'm going to take UNC as well. Virginia Tech is going to move on for Bud Foster at the end of the season, and they should.
Yeah.
Because he has turned that program into a laughingstock. And they're going to lose to UVA for the first time
Justin
this year.
Fuente, too. Yeah, they're going to lose to UVA. Well, I don't know. UVA doesn't look like world beaters anymore either.
Yeah, I know. After Miami last week, that was...
Yeah, I like UNC here.
I'm kind of torn here. I'm actually going to take Virginia Tech. I think UNC's... I mean, I know UNC went and beat Georgia Tech last week, but I don't know. There's something about UNC that's just very inconsistent to me. Obviously, they played Clemson within 2 weeks ago, but then they lose at home to App State. I don't know. I am going to take Virginia Tech here.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's my hot take of the week. Southern Miss goes to Louisiana Tech in a Conference USA clash. Southern Miss is 4-2. La Tech 5-1. This game's on NFL Network.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of a good game to be on NFL.
Yeah.
Network.
Well, Conference USA has that agreement with the NFL.
Yeah, but they normally
Network.
put like UTEP and UTSA there. Not good teams.
They got this one somehow. La Tech is a 10-point favorite, and I'm going to take La Tech here.
I would take Southern Miss. Southern Miss's offense is really, really, really good.
Yeah, they're explosive, yeah.
That line's weird to me. I think they have about similar quality of wins and opponents. So I'm going to take Southern Miss.
Okay, another game we're split on. That usually doesn't happen when we do this. We usually we agree for
this week's
one.
Weird. We're going to have more when we pick the
we have
non-good games.
Yeah, we have 30 you said games to pick this week?
Ish.
So the ACC again, 4-2 Duke goes to 4-2 UVA. UVA a 3-point favorite. Another big game. Like the Coastal has a lot of pretty important games this
When
week.
everyone sucks, that tends to happen.
This is a tough one. UVA obviously coming off a really disappointing loss to Miami last week. Duke has shown flashes of quality football this year, but they've lost to Pitt 2 weeks ago, but then they beat Georgia Tech last week, which everyone beats Georgia Tech, obviously. This is a tough one.
I'm going to take UVA at home, really. This is a toss-up for me. I just think Virginia's more talented.
I agree. I'm going to take UVA as well. I think Bryce Perkins is going to be a bit of a difference, and he's going to be able to make enough plays to give UVA a shot. This game's not going to be high scoring at all, I don't think. I think it's going to be like
2017?
Something like that, yeah. I was like 24-17, something like that. But UVA needs this win. I mean, they already have a conference loss, which to this point I didn't think they would.
Mm-hmm.
Going to go to the SEC. 3-3 Kentucky goes to a reeling at number 10 Georgia. However, Georgia, I expect Georgia to come out playing pretty pissed.
Yeah, I think the Lynn Bowden experiment at Kentucky, the quarterback, I mean, it worked last week, but
against Arkansas,
against good teams, I don't see that working particularly well. I'd like UGA to cover here.
Now, I like Georgia to win and cover, but Sawyer Smith, there's a good chance he does come back this week.
I'm not sure that helps them.
Could you see a two-quarterback system with Bowden going back there?
No, because they need Bowden to play wide receiver if they're going to actually throw the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be such a workload for him, too, to have to go. He runs a fade. All right, we're going Wildcat package.
Now go throw one.
He's a hell of an athlete.
Yeah,
though.
He actually threw the ball relatively
He
effectively.
did, yeah. I mean, I heard an interview with Mark Stoops earlier, and he's like, there's only like one throw that I thought was like bad from him the whole game. And he brought him back. They got their first conference win of the year over a not so great Arkansas team, but hey.
That's an understatement.
A win's a win. To another pretty big AAC game, 5-1 Tulane goes to 5-1 Memphis. Memphis a 4-point favorite. This is a pretty big game in the AAC as well.
I like Tulane here.
I agree with you.
Tulane beat the brakes off them last year. And I think Tulane's turned a corner. I think they're a really, really good team. I think Memphis is going to be kind of hurting after losing to Temple last week. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take Tulane here.
I am as well.
High scoring, though.
Yeah, this game's going to be like 38-35, 40-35, something like that. Willie Fritz has done a bang-up job at Tulane.
I mean, Tulane very quietly had that win over Army.
Like a convincing
win. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, their only loss was to Auburn. It was
kind of close.
They held them at 24. Yeah. The ACC. God, I'm getting my letters mixed up here. 3-3 Florida State goes to 5-1 Wake. Wake is a 1.5-point favorite. This game could be tight.
I like FSU. I hate FSU, but I think they're going to win. Uncertain quarterback situation at Wake. Kind of uncertain quarterback situation at FSU, too. But I think Wake came back down to earth a little bit last week. Mm-hmm. I think FSU can score on them and probably play better defense than Louisville does. So I'm going to take FSU here, like 31-20.
Ooh, wow. That's pretty convincing. I hate to agree with you. I'm going to take Florida State as well. I don't think it'll be that convincing as what you think. I think this will be more like 31-28, 31-27, something like that. But offensively, Florida State has definitely taken a large step from the beginning of the season.
Clemson notwithstanding.
Yeah, that's an anomaly. But and defensively, I think they can make enough plays, especially with Jamie Newman questionable for this game. I think that Florida State's going to go in and give Wake their second loss in as many weeks. Final game that we're going to discuss, Texas A&M goes to Ole Miss. A&M's a 6.5-point favorite. And frankly, I don't really buy it.
I do. I think you saw that Ole Miss kind of struggled a little bit last week with Mizzou defensively more than offensively. They actually moved the ball pretty well. I think A&M knows this is a game they need to win. I mean, you don't want to drop to 3-4.
And especially with the schedule that they have. I mean, they still have Georgia on the schedule, and they still have LSU on the schedule. Like, that's just not
week
fair.
Week in, week out.
That's just not fair.
So I like Texas A&M cover here, like 27-19, 27-20.
I'm gonna take A&M. I want to see Ole Miss. I kind of have a soft spot for Ole Miss right now. I want to see them do well, but I'm gonna take A&M as well. I don't think they'll cover. I think this would be like 27-24, something like that. But Jimbo Fisher needs this win to keep support from the fan base, I think.
Yeah, and just kind of any hope of semi-respectability. I mean, it keeps like an 8-win season alive. They win.
And with A&M, they just playing in the SEC West is tough.
Oh yeah.
And
murderous. Especially this year. Good Lord.
Yeah, gosh. And then they draw Georgia on the other side it's not fair. That's just really kind of disheartening if you're an A&M fan.
Or player. That would suck. You're hurting all the time. I mean, every game's just physical. Yeah, it's tough.
Yes, yeah, it's not an easy slate, but we'll see what Jimbo Fisher are going to do. Is there a scenario where you feel that A&M could, obviously I know they're in a lot of money to them, but that they could get rid of Fisher before his contract's up?
Not really, no. Plus, I think there is going to be some patience there. I mean, this schedule is abnormally difficult. He seems to be recruiting pretty well. I don't think they were left in great shape by someone. Now, I mean, if they go like 6-7 this year after going 9-4 last year in his first year, that does hurt. But I think they give him 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I think that they'll give him at least 2 more. But at the same time, though, you were brought in to compete for an SEC West crown, which by default,
titles, really.
Yeah, when you pay someone $75 million, yeah, that's what you're expecting. And A&M has the resources, the fan base, the boosters, the recruiting to do all of that. And if they're in the Big 12, they'd be right up there with Oklahoma probably. But because they're playing in the West, I mean, it just makes it so tough to compete with Alabama, LSU, even Auburn. I mean, that's a tough road.
Oh yeah.
So that'll do it for the games this week. So a pretty important week for the entire landscape of college football before we head into the final stretch of the season. Cameron, I ask you one final takeaway. What can you see from this week that could really impact the college football landscape?
As far as on a national scale, really just the Michigan-Penn State game has really any national bearing to me. But as far as like conference crowns, and the entire ACC and the entire Big 12 are basically in a dogfight for who's going to play the titan of the conference. So those are always interesting to me. Other than that, I don't see a whole lot of groundbreaking things happening, but I mean, no one saw South Carolina beating Georgia last week.
We don't, so you never know what's going to happen. So that'll wrap us up here on the Bird and the Bear podcast. Be sure to go check out this one on our YouTube channel at the Bird and the Bear CFB. Be sure to subscribe and like all of our podcasts up there right now, already up to 9 episodes. So be sure to catch up on any of them if you've missed them throughout the course of the season. So for Cameron Carriglio, I'm Michael Knauff saying see you next time and have a good one, folks.